Joined by Craig Button and Frankie Corrado here in studio. Guys, it was 2 weeks ago. The Oilers and Bruins played one of the best games of the entire season. 6-5 in overtime. The Bruins came out on top. Craig, how valuable are these measuring type games that the Oilers and Bruins went head-to-head in that helps the general managers address areas they think they need to fix as you approach the deadline?
You might be surprised by this, but I think when you're going conference against conference, I don't think they're measuring stick games. Because that would be no, I don't. I think in your conference, where you have to find a way to be a strong team, to get out of your division, to get out of the conference, those are the games that matter. I think these games are nice and fun. It's just like when the Leafs played Vegas or Colorado. They're good games. They're good teams you're playing against. But the games that matter, Toronto versus Boston, Edmonton versus Vegas, Edmonton versus Colorado. Those are the games that I want to see. Yes, you want to be at your best. Yes, you know you're testing yourself. But to me, on the significance factor, I'd put it at a 2 out of 10.
Wow. I think they're more curiosity games more than anything.
Great word.
That's what it's like. Curious. How do we match up against a really good team in the other conference? It's not that the style of hockey is necessarily that different. It's just it's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things because you're not trying to go through those
but
teams.
not short term.
Not in the short term because think about it. You got to get through the Pacific or the Central if you're in the West. There's a lot of good teams you got to worry about before you can worry about Boston, Florida, New York, and the teams in the Eastern Conference.
All right, so the Oilers have started a new win streak, looking for their 5th straight win tonight. They're 9 points back of the Vancouver Canucks, but they've got 4 games in hand. Frankie, what chance do you give the Oilers of making up the ground and actually winning the division?
I don't even think it matters, Gino. I really don't think it matters because you're going to have to play good teams regardless. You're going to have to play Vegas. You're going to have to play Vancouver. The path is not necessarily easy for the Oilers, but they've laid a very solid foundation of what this team is now and how they've changed with the new coaching staff. So, hey, great. If you want to make up ground, that's awesome. All the power to you. The only thing that really matters is that when the puck drops in April, you're defensively aware, your goaltender can make a save, and your best players are your best players, and maybe you can add a little depth scoring along the way. That seems to be the recipe for the Oilers to have some success in the postseason.
I think they've made their push to have home ice in the first round of the playoffs, which I think is really significant. Hey, listen, I'm not saying don't put your sights on the Vancouver Canucks, but they got to win 5 more games than the Canucks the rest of the year. That's a lot of ground to make up, even with 4 games in hand. So I think they've made significant strides up in the standings to get home ice against the Vegas Golden Knights, who right now don't look like a real top contender for the Stanley Cup. So I think that Edmonton has done their part in climbing the standings to that spot. And to Frankie's point, 39 games this season, they have been outstanding defensively. They take that, like they have in the last 4 games into the playoffs, they got a legitimate chance to compete for the Cup.
Okay, so the Oilers' needs are pretty well known. A depth forward, a defenseman, maybe even a backup goalie to help out Skinner. Craig, which would you pick as a priority number 1 for Ken Holland between now and Friday? Because they have needs pretty much everywhere.
I don't worry about their offense. I think that where they could really benefit is by getting 1 or 2 forwards with some speed and some weight that play in their bottom 9, 10, 11, 12 forwards. The playoffs are about who can go the hardest, the longest, and you need depth. Bruce Cassidy said last year they beat the Edmonton Oilers with their 3rd and 4th lines. Edmonton needs to bolster the bottom end of their forward group. I think that's their most pressing area.
Last year, when they brought in Nick Bjugstad, I thought that was a great example of what they needed lower in the lineup. But I think they have an opportunity this year to add a scoring winger, and not someone that you're going to get that's going to have to play on your first power play unit, because let's be honest, who are you taking off that unit? You're not. But if someone on the secondary market is available that scores at 5-on-5, hello, I'm knocking on the door of Tyler Toffoli. Not exactly a secondary market player, but that kind of guy who scores at 5-on-5, that's the kind of upgrade that I'd be looking at if I'm Edmonton.
The Edmonton Oilers have one thing on the trade bait board. It's their 1st round pick, and it's sitting at number 4. So expect some fireworks in Edmonton between now and Trade Center.